chapter 6 is what it says, but really what this, don't pay any attention to that. NASM did send us these slides, like this, and it's clearly based out of like some book that they read. Like there is no official like how to get into personal training. I don't think there's really a textbook about this. Like, I mean, like there's personal training textbooks, like how to, train clients and stuff. And every one of those will obviously have a chapter covering like, well, here's what you got to do to get hired generally, but there's no like book on, how to get into real estate, there's nothing like that for us. Or how to procure a job specifically for personal trainers. That being said, there are lots of textbooks out there about like how to develop yourself professionally in sort of like chunks of industries. And so I think I looked it up one time. I think I found the book that this was based on, and it's like a leisure activity industry textbook, like how to break into, like if you ever wanted to be like a tour guide or work on like a cruise ship or work at a resort, and which is like very adjacent to personal training. A lot of personal trainers end up in situations like that. So it is kind of like that. That book, I'm sure. So you're going to see a lot of examples actually where it's like when working in the recreation industry, you're going to see a lot of stuff like that, and that's clearly where they got like their chunks of information. We don't need that whole textbook. I mean, like that thing is like, it looked big, and I was like, how did you write a book that big about such a small whatever? I didn't read it, like but it is really great information, and it does match up very much with what I have been told, or what I've experienced as a personal trainer for over a decade now. It is very similar to what Mo and I both went through these PowerPoints together, and like sort of like picked and we changed certain pieces of information. This is a very rare class where some of these slides were written by Mo and me. We tried to leave it to NASM almost strictly, but like this is a rare class where there's gonna be some stuff that I've definitely modified and added in here. And then stuff that like the advisory board that advises Sochi, these are gyms that are in our area that hire our students, that they told us we should do. They were like, here's what we look for when we're hiring. And if you tell your students to put this in their cover letter, it will give them a better chance. So there's some information like that in here as well. So it is small, it's brief, and obviously there's no black and white, way to write the perfect cover letter that will guarantee you a job. But this is one of those things where if you can come up with a really good format, and a really good template, it will be very easy for you to just simply change key pieces of information, be like, I think I'd be a good fit for, delete whatever name was in there last time and put in the new gym that you're trying to apply for. Because, and then, last time, let's say you were trying to work at 24 Hour Fitness where you do your own sales. I'm friendly and approachable, and I think that I would do great in a sales environment. Maybe say something like that. But then you work at like a resort, and like the resort, you don't have to do any selling. They just want you to be there and be friendly and approachable and like fun for all the guests, and you're going to get paid hourly, and then you just change that last little sentence where you're like, I think I'd be great because I'm friendly and approachable. And I have a lot of energy to share with guests. So it's like you just change that last little bit. So you just cater yourself specifically for whatever it is, whatever job you're applying for, based on your skill set and stuff. And we talked about this last time. Just to recap what we said on Friday, what you guys all want to start doing now, even though I know a lot of you guys are really far from graduation, but I also know some of you guys have started taking on like a client here and there. I'm sure some of you guys are training people maybe on the side a little bit, which is great, by the way, and I totally encourage it, as long as you're being clear that like just be extra cautious, because you don't want to like hurt anybody, but it's not illegal, so freaking do it, make some extra cash. That's what I did when I was in school. But like what we talked about on Friday, one of the things we kind of let off with was at the very end of the lesson was like, you want to do a personal assessment. You want to know what your strengths are, where you want to work. Like not just what you're good at, but also what you're passionate about. Because like you guys came to this industry for some reason other than just it pays better. I'm assuming. Um, so the objectives of this specific PowerPoint, we're going to talk about like what cover letters are. And then we will talk briefly about other types of letters as well that are sometimes used in the industry, like a reference request letter. Me personally, I don't think you have to do that. I think that like in nowadays, like if you're using someone as a reference and you have to write them a formal letter to ask them for that reference, I think that that's probably not a very good choice of reference because it sounds like you don't know each other that well or have a very strong relationship. Job acceptance letters, that's usually like 1 or 2 sentences. That's mostly covered through email nowadays. Job declination letters, we will talk about that briefly. Like if you're like, look, I've got a better offer. Thank you so much. I don't want to burn any bridges. And then we will talk about resignation letters as well. Those are very, very simple. It's literally just like, hey, thanks for the thing. This is my 2 weeks notice. My last date will be on, and then you just put a specific date on the letter. That way you have it in writing and you bounce. So cover letters. Cover letters are meant to literally cover your resume. That's where the name comes from. And they are the very first impression. They're the first thing that a potential employer is going to see. And it's a very casual industry, personal training. Like we get to wear shorts every day to work. It's the best part of our job. I love it. Like even as I like in teaching mode, I get to wear like a sweatshirt and a hat, like and shorts. Like I feel very comfortable in my job. This is a casual industry, which is great, but it still needs to be met with a certain level of professionalism in order for you to kind of set yourself apart from other people who are applying. Like, let's say there are 2 Sochi students, both very qualified, going up for the same job. One of them writes a cover letter and one of them doesn't. If I were a potential employer and I didn't know either of these people, I would probably go with the one who wrote the cover letter. If I've only got one more slot left for all my interviews for the week, I'm probably going to go with that first one, because I know I can always come back to the other one. It's sitting in a pool of resumes, I maybe pull them in the second round if I really don't find anybody. But if I'm trying to like, manage my time and I can only call in so many people, I'm going to pick the ones that are the most professional, I know it's a little snobby, but that's how everybody does it, So you can see here, it says it's mandatory to submit cover letters in the recreation and leisure business. Mandatory makes it sound like there's a rule book here. There's no rule book here. But again, without it, it just shows a little bit of like unprofessionalism. The other thing, like I like immediately, I did not do this, but I sat in on an interview. Like when I was taking over for the guy before me at Sochi, when I was working with, I worked at Sochi for a little bit, and they were like, we're gonna make you the program director. We got to get you trained up. And he's like, we got 2 weeks to do this. And I sat in on an interview because, if I took his spot, someone was going to take my spot, which meant we had to hire someone else. And one person like, called him and was like, hey, I'm so sorry. I'm going to be about 20 minutes late. Traffic is much worse than I thought it was. Like 20 minutes is pretty substantial. And he was like, can we reschedule? And my boss at the time was like, yeah, we can reschedule. And he pushed it, and he was like, maybe we can do tomorrow, this. And I was like, no. He's like, I've got a full week. And we had like a full week of interviews and stuff. So he pushed that person all the way to the end. He found someone to hire in the interim and then had to call that person later and be like, look, we found somebody in the next like coming days. And if I were that person, I'd be really upset that I got pushed to the end and lost my chance to even, get to interview. But like, that's what rescheduling does, like it showed. He was like my boss was like, look, it didn't, it doesn't show up on time. This is a very appointment based industry, like personal trainers, you got to show up on time. The ones who don't are, it shows very bad unprofessionalism. So it was kind of an eye-opening moment. I think it was a little, I don't think it actually was that harsh. I don't know if that's the approach that I personally would take. I like to make sure that I'm giving everybody a fair shake, but I don't think he was being necessarily too unfair. Plus, the guy we hired was awesome. So anyway, that is sort of the purpose of a cover letter. We're just trying to show that we are very professional. And honestly, guys, this is the sad truth, and you're not going to see this in the PowerPoint slides or anything, but most people don't actually read every line of your cover letter. Most of the time, people are just going to skim it and look for key pieces of information and move on. But again, it's about, kind of playing the game in a way.
Hey, Brad, I have a question about cover letters.
Yeah, please.
Nowadays, everyone makes you apply online.
Yes.
Which includes, they ask you a bunch of questions, which is basically what the cover letter covers.
Yep.
Then they make you put your application in there and then a cover letter. So what's the kind of the cover letter nowadays, considering you basically already told them everything in their questionnaire?
I honestly repeat the information. That's fine. Like I often, I haven't done this in a while, but when I would like apply for jobs, I would often have my cover letter like pulled up on another window. Or one time I was very proud of myself. I even printed it and I had it sitting next to me while I was like throwing in information. And when you see stuff like that, when you see those boxes, just pull the information right out of your cover letter, reword it a little bit, so it's not like freaking verbatim, because then they'll be like, what the heck, is this person a robot? Like if they notice. I mean, they probably wouldn't notice because nobody reads it that carefully. But like, yeah, because then it also shows like consistency. It's almost like they're trying to catch you, in a trap of like, well, you said here that you worked here for 4 years, but on this one you said you worked here for 6 years. Which is it? So I would just say like use the same information. There's nothing wrong with that at all. By definition, you guys will probably see this in a homework question, I think. Cover letters, it's the first point of contact for a job application. It's a really great way for you to open up any dialogue with a potential employer, right? There's a chance for you to kind of get your story out there. I don't know how many of you guys, actually, I know a couple of you guys have really great stories about like fitness journeys that you've been on. Like where you're like, look, I was overweight and I decided to put my, change things and really like get, into really, really good shape and become a personal trainer so I can do the same for others. Stuff like that reads so well on a cover letter. Like, wow, what a motivating story. People love that, right? Like I'm drawn to that every time I've read it on it. And I've talked to multiple managers and they're always like, they love those stories. Or like, honestly, I used to work with this girl, Rochelle, and she was an alcoholic who, she was like doing a lot of stuff that was like really destructive in her life. And she decided to like run an Ironman triathlon, which is we've talked about this before in other classes. In my opinion, the hardest freaking thing a human being can do on this planet. So she decided to like train and do that. And succeeded, started writing a book and stuff. And then because she got so into fitness in order to be able to do the Ironman thing, she, got her personal training certification. She didn't have a lot of experience, but like we all at the resort were like, yeah, we're hiring her. Like that story is going to come up all the time with our guests, and our guests are going to like blow their lids because it's so motivating. Like and she was great. She was a really good trainer. She was super motivating, super motivating. And then all we had to do was teach her. She was a little rough around the edges when it came to like some of the more like scientific aspects of things. But we were able to get her trained up on that really quick, So as like, and this was when I was like the head trainer, which is sort of like, I guess we'd call it assistant. It's sort of like an assistant manager thing. That's what it was like, where we were like, we've got better actual trainers here who have more experience and stuff. better, and I would say arguably like more knowledgeable in the industry in general. But that like story, that cover letter, it conveyed to us, we were like, this is exactly the type of person that we want interacting with our guests. We are here to like motivate people who, most of our guests were, very, 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 very obese. And really like this was like a life change for them. And so like having Stormzy who had been through that, that's what we want. So that's another thing. We want, you're opening up dialogue, and it's the first impression that you get to make before you actually get to meet someone. Without it, seems very unprofessional. So it says mandatory in this. Obviously there's no like, it's not like they're going to throw your resume out, but I do think that it sort of like puts you at a disadvantage. So there's a lot of different types of cover letters out there depending on how you want to write them. So in terms of like how you're going to approach this, there is the straight up like, you just want to get in touch with a gym. Maybe you don't even know if they're hiring or not, but you're like, this is where I want to work. You can send a prospective letter. You can send like a prospective letter that is all about just inquiring like, hi, I know of your gym. I've looked you guys up. I've read about you. I am super into what it is you guys in particular are doing. I love your approach. This is my dream job. This is, don't say something like that, but this is like, this is where I really see myself. Do you have any positions available? So even if you don't know, because sometimes like, especially in our industry, it's not that like a lot of times what I've seen in the fitness industry is that like, they're often behind in hiring. They will often have like more clients with more sessions available than they have trainers. That's not always true. A lot of times they'll do like when they do like a job fair and they like hire a ton of trainers, then it starts to get a little sparse and a little competitive amongst the trainers for clients and stuff. But a lot of times like, because the training managers are doing something else, so they get bogged down, or they're worried about just like sales quotas and stuff, and like they're just trainers who are like, look, I don't have any more room in my schedule, and then like these people don't have trainers to like work with. A lot of times like a prospective letter could just like bring you in, and it's like they didn't know they were hiring, but it turns out they were hiring. Like they didn't know they were hiring until they saw your freaking cover letter and resume, or until they met you. So that's a sort of a prospective letter. There is the classic application letter. Joseph, this is kind of what you were talking about, right? A known job opening, and you're just responding to it. And then there are like networking letters and stuff, just like, for instance, like I said, in this course, it is we are building cover letters. It is your homework too, to have a cover letter and a resume. I had a student, let's see if I can pull her up actually. I can't remember her name. Sienna, I can't remember her last name. No. I'll have to find that and pull it up in a couple of days or something. I'll text someone and try to remember, because she doesn't like have it direct, like her name's not her Instagram. But anyway, she came to Sochi because she was just worked out a lot. She was like, I just want to learn more about being a personal trainer. I was like, oh, okay. And like, whenever I was like, when you take on clients, and she was like, oh, I'm not going to train anybody. I was like, what? Like, she was like, yeah, I'm not that interested in like working with people or, training people. She's like, I just want to know more about the fitness industry. I'm really passionate about, she wants to be like an influencer. That's her big thing. She just wants to like, have a lot of cool photos on Instagram. And she was passionate about clothing. And so while we were in class, she like came up and she was like, hey, like, I don't ever plan on applying for a job out there. Instead of writing a cover letter from the perspective of as if you were applying for a job, can I write a cover letter to this lady? And she's like, would you help me? She was like an artist on Instagram with really cool, just like abstract designs. And she was like, I want to talk to her about maybe buying her art to put on leggings and tops and all this like fitness gear. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. That sounds great. You know, like I was like, that's still a cover letter. It's just not an employment cover letter. It's a networking letter, you know? And so we worked on it. She would show it to the class and stuff. We would all like, you know, pitch in suggestions. Cause at that point, like I'm not an expert on how to break into the clothing industry. I was like, if anybody has any ideas, you know, and she was willing to share with everyone. And I remember it was around the same time, right? Like Christmas break happened. And then in the middle of January, it was like the next module, new students had come in, but she was still in the core. And this girl was on her phone every day, by the way, like, just like constantly. And I was like, Sienna, eyes up here, you know, constantly. But randomly in the middle of class one day, she throws her arms up and she was like, oh my gosh. And she was reading, you know, an email, and that lady emailed her back and she was like, I'd love to. She's like, you can use it pro bono. Like, she's like, you know, just throw my name on there. We'll do it like as a contact thing. And then like, if it's very successful, let's, you know, talk about, you know, how you can cut me in for whatever percentage of the profits. And she still sells that clothing. Like, you know, at least last I checked. I haven't checked in on this girl in quite some time. Like I said, she didn't want to be a personal trainer. She just wanted to be on Instagram. So once she graduated, there's not been a lot of contact with her. I like to stay in touch with people, but but yeah, that is what this cover letter could be used for, you know? So I really do think you guys are going to be able to use this once we get out of here. I will always remember that moment though in class where I was like, literally, I just saw like from the back of the room, like someone's arm just like, she was like, oh my God. That was awesome. So general tips. Here's the general tips and tricks. Try to follow as many of these as you can. I really think a lot of this is kind of mandatory. Number one, keep your freaking cover letter to one page. I do not want, or nobody wants to read a novel about how you got that. I was born in the back of a pickup truck on the way, you know, I don't care. That's a cool story, but I don't care. It's like, we gotta go, you know? So keep it to one page, like immediately get into why you think you are applying for this job. Like honestly, we'll talk about the first paragraph. First paragraph is literally just introductions, like, hello, my name is so-and-so. I think I'd be a good fit at your gym. I found your job posting here. Everybody's first paragraph is literally the same. It's kind of a weird salutation, you know? Address the cover letter to a specific person if you can. This one can sometimes be a little challenging, but if you do a little bit of sleuthing, you can find the training manager anywhere. Let's find gyms near me. Oh, look, Speakeasy Fitness. That's right. This is the one that Eddie goes to. So let's go to their website. Let's see if we can do just oh wow, yeah, that is like a club. He's been talking about it. I gotta go check this place out. This is weird. Let's go down here. Support, marketing, general inquiries. So there is that. Let's see if there's just an actual contact page. Let's blow this up so you can see a little better. Memberships, locations, not locations and gallery. Sometimes they put stuff in there. Oh, there's a Van Nuys location now too. Dang, man, there are way more of these than I thought. Okay, so there's our phone number. We do have the phone number for the NoHo one. If that's where we wanted to go train, we've got the NoHo information a little bit. What I don't see is a contact me page. So it's a little bit tough with this one, right? Like I don't see a direct contact page, but if I wanted to figure out the training manager's name, maybe I get on Instagram and I look through some of their photos. They might, oh, look at that. Now hiring personal trainer. When was this posted? Email biz@speakeasy. All right, so there we go. We did a little bit of sleuthing and we found the email that we need to send it to. Now what we don't have is a direct name. So yes, you could say, okay, well, that's creepy. Sorry, you could say, dear sir, stroke madam, or you could say to whom it may concern. You can say all that. And honestly, that is a very commonly used thing. But when you can address it to a specific person, it always comes off much stronger. One of my favorite things that I will do, I will borrow a friend's phone. I will plug in, I think it's like *99 or something before I make the phone call. And I will call anonymously to the gym that I'm applying for. They probably get calls all the time asking for if they're hiring or not. And I will just get extra nosy and ask way more questions than I need to the front desk person who isn't involved in the hiring process at all, and be like, are you guys hiring? What's your training manager's name? Do you know what the rate of pay is? Do you know how often the trainers work? And have they pulled anybody in for interviews? These are all questions that like maybe a little nosy if you are like a prospective employee, but since it's anonymous, ask away, and then once you get that name, write it down. And then when you write that letter, address it to a specific person. I've done that for 2 jobs that I've gotten. That's how I got the job in Oregon before I moved back. I called up there anonymously first, and then addressed it to Evan. Oh my God, I forgot. I can't remember last names today. Zupanzik. And I was like, dear Evan Zupanzik, that's how the whole thing works. So try to address it to a specific person. Don't send out like form letters or mass mailings. Those just sound very robotic. Like, to whom it may concern, I found your job and am interested. Beep boop. Not awesome. Not a good thing. Not a good approach. Don't send pictures. I know that like we're in a social media age. I know we're in Los Angeles too, which is like everything's photos out here. Don't send a picture. I've seen that in cover letters. It's very weird. This isn't acting. This isn't the film industry. So many actors are personal trainers. I get photos constantly, or I used to, whenever we were hiring and stuff. And it was just, yeah, you don't need that. Try not to get too personal. Like throw in a couple, nuggets about yourself of, key pieces of information, but you don't have to get like really in the weeds or way too personal about like how you approach that. You're always going to try to emphasize your top selling points. What we mean by that is like just what is it that you are really terrific at? I think that like every good cover letter has like a little bit of a message kind of built into it from the start to the finish. And what I mean by that is like, what is it that why'd you get into the personal training industry and why are you passionate about it? How does that translate to making you a good employee for whatever specific job? So you're always kind of coming back to, I think I'd be good for this job because I'm great at X, Y, and Z. And, I want to do this. I'm passionate about this, all that. It should always be single spaced. I will say you can get away with 1.5. Sometimes that looks really nice. And you should always use 1-inch margins. Very, very simply, just like making sure that you use the kind of default 1-inch. Sorry. Sneeze. So 1-inch margins there. If you feel like you're like, oh man, my resume or my cover letter doesn't fit, I need to make the margins smaller, then your cover letter has too much content in it and you need to cut some stuff out. So keep it to 1-inch margins, keep it to single spaced, or maybe you can even go to 1.5. Mention the date that the letter was written. That just kind of shows that, like, again, it is not a mass forming, that is just something that kind of shows like, oh, clearly they, redid this as they were like making this application. And then don't use acronyms, guys. Write out the whole name. I work for Sochi, which every time I write a cover letter, it's the Southern California Health Institute. Don't write NASM, put National Academy of Sports Medicine. The exception to this rule, and honestly, it's not going to apply to a cover letter. You don't have to, I don't know why anybody would mention this in a cover letter, but the exception to that rule is like CPR/AED. On your resume, you also don't want to use acronyms. You want to say National Academy of Sports Medicine, You can, if you want to, abbreviate CPT, because that is literally like the industry license that all of us have. You know, we all have a version of the CPT. We have the NASA version of the CPT, certified personal trainer. But a lot of the other ones like CES, PES, FNS, you know, like they have no idea what those letters stand for, you know. Fitness nutrition specialist, corrective exercise specialist, like every company calls their mini certifications, they all call them something else, you know, like ACE has a version of corrective exercise, but I don't know what they call it. So don't abbreviate, don't, you know, it makes the assumption they might not have any idea what you're talking about. The only exception to that acronym rule is CPR and AED, and sometimes CPT. Any questions so far? Comments so far?
No, pretty clear.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at what these paragraphs look like. We're going to kind of break down, you know, sort of what a good cover letter format actually is, which means I need to actually hop over to Canvas really quick and download my freaking thing because I put it on the wrong day and I need to change that, but I'll discuss that later. Or did I? Wait, where's my example? Aha, there it is. That was very on the wrong day. That is 2 days late. Let's just put it, I don't know why I did that. I'll fix that. Okay, so here's a really simple cover letter template. This is about as simple as it gets, and it's just a basic like default Microsoft Word letter situation, right? And you know, this one is, you know, talking about like it's like apply any text or formatting you see in this. Doesn't have any actual information about like how to do this, but I do have example cover letters that I can show you as well. So at the top, get your name on there. And now this does have like a space for street address. Me personally, I'm actually not a huge fan of the idea of putting my full address in there, which is okay. But what you can do instead is you can just simply put in like the area of town that you are in. Now, if you do decide to put Los Angeles, though, I'm not a big fan because that's very vague. Los Angeles is just a, you know, could refer to this whole, you know, area, or, you know, yeah, even if you're in the Los Angeles zip code. So, you know, like for instance, when I applied for like, you know, when I was moving, I lived in Park La Brea. There is no such thing as like South Hollywood. But that's totally like the area of town that I was in. My zip code was officially Los Angeles, 91306, I think. And so what I put was just Hollywood, because that's where I wanted to work anyways, you know? So I put Hollywood, California. So put your name up there. Instead of street address, like I said, I would just put like Van Nuys, California. We're going to put up our phone number, right? And email. I'm going to just put my personal email, right? And well, my personal / professional one. So there's contact information right at the top. I'm definitely going to put the date. We're going to keep that in bold here. So it is 11/22/2021. Now, like I said, if you can find the recipient's name, please try to put their title, the company address, city, and zip code. This section right here is not as important as it used to be. If you are writing a physical letter, which I recommend doing, I recommend having like 2 versions of this. Write this letter out with all this information, as much of it as you can get up there. So let's just say we're applying to, you know, Joe, I don't know, Joe Smith there. Manager we'll say Speakeasy Fitness here. And find out if that's a real name. It might be Speakeasy Gyms or something. And then put their address because it does show like North Hollywood. So North Hollywood. Let's go back to that actually. Where are we at? That's Reseda. 7500 Lancashire. Ooh, can't type. North Hollywood, California. Ooh, they don't have a zip code. I'll find that. Honestly, actually, you can leave it. Actually, I kind of like the way that looks right now. So I'd literally just put that location. That way it shows, like, especially because there's several speakeasy locations, if this is going into their system, like if I upload this cover letter to like an email thing and it just goes to biz@speakeasy, which we saw earlier, and then like that person's in charge of forwarding wherever it's supposed to go, they can look on the thing, but they could also see it on my cover letter. So you know, oh, okay, this one's going over to the NoHo manager, you know. So there we go. Now we got this information. Now, if this was an email, which a lot of cover letters will be, you can just remove all this stuff. You can just go ahead and straight delete it and leave it like name, contact info, date, and then leave all that information out. But I love to have this stuff with me whenever I bring my printed version, when I come in with my resume and my cover letter and my references sheet and the application. When I come in with all that printed, when I go in for my interview, having this just looks a little bit more, you know, in person, it just looks a little bit more, oh, it's a fancy, well-written cover. That's like, it's not fancy, just well-written, you know? This would be Dear Mr. Smith. Sounds like I'm sounds like I'm Neo from the Matrix, like Mr. Smith. So yeah, so that's the pre aspect to the letter. Now, your actual cover letter should be about 4 paragraphs. And when I say 4 paragraphs, they may sound like a lot of information, but here's the thing. The first one, guys, all of you, we are all unique. You're all individuals. Everybody's you know, unique in their own way, but your freaking first paragraph should basically be the same as everyone else who's ever submitted one. It is kind of like it's like a salutation, you know? Like when someone says good morning, your reply isn't, it is a good morning, you know, like, it's just like morning, you know, like you say kind of the same thing back, or hello, you know, like there's just a couple like key things that everyone says that like starts the conversation off so that everyone's on kind of an even playing field. Very simple. You're just getting through it. Okay. So the first paragraph is literally just going to introduce where you found the job and what position you're applying for. Hello, my name is Brad Thompson. I'm applying for, I found your ad on Indeed.com and saw that you are hiring for a personal trainer. That's it. That's your first paragraph. Second paragraph is where you get into the like, hire me. You know, first one is literally just like, how'd you find the job you're applying for? What position, specific position you're applying for. If you want to allude to what your career objectives and goals are, you can. I don't recommend it. I honestly think just save that stuff for the second and third paragraphs. This first paragraph and also this fourth paragraph, they're just a formality. You're just trying to get the information out there. So literally, I'm going to go, I am applying for position of personal trainer. I found your ad on Indeed.com, and I think I would be an excellent fit for the position. First paragraph done. Really, 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 really simple. It is just a salutation. It's hello. Now you can start talking, you know? So yeah, how'd you find the position you're applying for? Why are you applying for it? Honestly, don't get too in the woods with that. And then you can allude to what some of your career objectives are. Like, I think I'd be an excellent fit for the position. I think that rounds it out and fills it out, and now it looks a little bit better on the page. Um, I like the way that kind of rounds out, but even that is probably not super needed. I just think that it kind of fills it nicely. So, like I said, here's a weird thing. The textbook example that they use, they have these examples in the book, and they are clearly just pulling these out directly onto the slides. None of them are personal training examples, which I think is weird, but here's an example. So my outgoing personality, my finance experience, and my recently completed education make me a strong candidate for the position of financial analyst within your company. I don't really like this. I think that it's decent. It does say financial analyst. It says like what they're applying for, and that is good. It doesn't say where they found the job opening, it doesn't say like what, it doesn't say specifically how they found that job, which I know is kind of weird, but like employers do want to know that kind of stuff. They're like, how did you sort of come across this? Because you might have a really cool story about how you came across it, maybe you're a member, like I've been a member of Speakeasy for 6 months now, and I think that I would really love to join the team and start motivating people. That's great. Throw that in there, I went with the most sort of common one, which is just, I found your ad on Indeed, Craigslist or whatever. So I don't personally love this first example. Second one, I like parts of it. I wanted to apply for the position of a salesperson within your company. Great, black and white, to the point, excellent. I read a recent article which highlighted your company as one of the fastest growing leaders in the business sector. I think that is actually really good as well. It's a little wordy, in my opinion. I think you should get through that a lot faster. But what I like about that is this version of I found your ad on Indeed.com. This person's like, I found your company. Good Lord. Because I was reading a recent article. I would probably say which article. And I would enjoy to bring my chance. I would enjoy a chance to bring my proven track record in sales to your team. It's also really good. That's simply the same as like, I think it'd be an excellent fit for the position. So that's your first paragraph. It's really, really simple, guys. Just get your information out there. Just like honestly, the fourth paragraph. The middle two are the only ones that you really need to like put any, creativity into. Second paragraph. Describe what your recent skills, your work experience, and your education. You guys, probably are not going to have a lot of work experience as personal trainers, but every one of you is going to have more education than a lot of other trainers out there. I would definitely highlight the fact that, number one, you're with NASM, which is in the industry, and I'm not saying this because I'm biased, I'm saying it because I've been in the industry for a long time, is considered the best. It is, I'll be overly fair here and say that ACSM is probably NASM's biggest competitor, and the two of them are the most widely respected. ACE's been getting good. They really have stepped up their game in the last few years, but when I first started as a trainer, ACE was like, ooh, that's the weekend one. They've done a good job of really stepping up their game, but I still don't think they're on the same level as NASM and stuff. Nesta is another one that's kind of smaller. ISSA, that's a little bit of a smaller one. Highlight the fact that you are an NASM trainer. It is highly, highly respected. And then in your second paragraph, you can also talk about the fact, like, not only am I a NASM trainer, I went to a school specifically for learning how to be a NASM trainer. Now, that's great because, someone else, like you guys could drop out today and, maybe you've got enough information to pass your test. Maybe you don't. Maybe you failed the first time, but then you take the retest and you figure out what you need to figure out and pass it the second time. You read your textbook enough. Sure, yeah, I think that you're going to have some information, and I think that it's possible for you to pass your test. I did that. I was in school, and I was like, man, I feel like I have enough science information. I feel like I have just enough knowledge. I think I could go pass this test, and this beats bussing tables. And so yeah, I just went passed it somehow. I still don't know how I was lucky enough to pass that dang thing. But passed it, and we started working. That's great that I got hired. I had to like sneak my way in. I had to start at the front desk and then, build a relationship there and just be likable enough to kind of get the job. Nowadays, like, I don't do any of that. Nowadays I lean on my work experience and my expertise, but I didn't develop those expertise until I was in school further. Man, I look back on how I used to train people. Like when I was first out the gate, it was bad. I was the worst. And I'm sure all of you are going to have the same opinion in 10 years, like you're all going to be like, oh man, when I first started, like, oh, I would never do that today. I think it's just part of growing, but yeah, that's your second paragraph. Like, something you guys all have that other people don't to lean on is specific education directed straight at the personal industry, training industry. Last night, my girlfriend and I were sitting around, and she was making a joke about how, like, her dad's a pediatrician. And she was making a joke. She's like, man, between my dad being a pediatrician, and then she said this, and I had to correct her. She goes, and my boyfriend being a anatomy physiology professor. And I was like, hold on. No, he is not, unless you have another boyfriend. I was like, professor is at like a university level. And she was like, well, and I was like, well, to be fair, here's what I'll say. I do think that Sochi, and I said this to her last night, and I believe it. I do think that Sochi sometimes trains better personal trainers than kinesiology degree majors or exercise science majors. I think that like Sochi does a better job sometimes because we are specifically targeting personal training. And like, if I've got two personal trainers and one of them got a 4-year degree in kinesiology, but they had to take like a history of scientific microscopes class, which that does exist, by the way. It's probably not required, but like maybe that's one of the electives that they use. That does not make you a better trainer in any capacity. I want to be with the guys who, talked about like this is what it's like to work on the freaking gym floor. This is how you have this type of conversation with your manager. This is how you do this. This is how you. I want to work with that. I never got any information on how to write a cover letter directed towards personal training. I never got any information about how to put I got a general resume, tips and tricks in my writing class, but like nothing about like how to specifically, what type of things personal trainers are looking for. So I think a lot of ways we do stuff in some ways better, I do think it'd be nice if our kinesiology class was longer than 12 days. But, I think that we still pull it off. I think we take the most relevant information. It's very distilled. It's concentrated personal training information. So put that in your cover letter. I think that it shows really handy information. And I'm not alone in that. The employers that I've talked to, that is one of the things they love. This is why Equinox loves Sochi students. If you guys see yourself working at Equinox, you will have a very easy time getting in there, in my opinion. So second paragraph, describe your recent skills, work experience, and then the big one for us, and or education. So you can highlight any of your previous experience to help fulfill your duties, but you can emphasize any achievements. By the way, some of those achievements in school, by the way, are like, I had a really high GPA, I had perfect attendance, whatever. And, I gotta say, everybody in this call right now, I can't think of the last time. I've got one example, and I'll leave it anonymous. I think I can think of one example of an absence in this entire group right now, and it was just one. So like that is fan freaking tastic. 99% attendance. That's great. You know, so if you want to highlight something like that in your cover letter because you're still new to the industry, go for it. So here's some examples here. Like, as a recent graduate of the San Francisco School of Business, freaking love that sentence, I put myself through school by working jobs in advertising, sales, and retail. So clearly very good for that whole financial analyst thing that they were going for. I feel these business experience helps solidify my work ethic and build on my formal education. Like working in jobs in advertising, sales, and retail may not have directly anything to do with financial analyst. But what they're leaning on is they're like, this helps solidify my work ethic. That's the thing they're focusing on, right? That's a great sale. You know, I love this whole paragraph. I think it's really solid. This May, so this is somebody who hasn't even graduated yet. I will receive my BA degree from Highland University with a dual degree in econ and art history. I recently completed my senior thesis in exploring the development of poster art in America, for which I've been awarded academic honors. It's very weird. What this person is, this is that person who's looking for the advertising job. And so like this, you know, they're like poster art. Oh, okay, advertising, you know, like I don't know anything about advertising, but I do think that that's relevant. I don't know. But again, I like parts of this where it's like they talked about the degree that they received, where they got it from, and then they talked about their senior thesis. You know, one of the things you can talk about at Sochi is like we do these workshops that are actually hands-on where you guys are getting to practice some of these things. I know that we only went through some of the assessments as an example version, but at the end of this course, you guys are going to be assessing each other. You know, we're going to go back through start to finish what all those assessments look like. We're going to open the day with me taking one student start to finish through an assessment. I won't explain things. I will literally just be doing it, and you guys are just going to watch it as a bird's eye view. We won't be taking questions until it's over. And you'll see how fast you can get through a head to toe full body assessment and see that it's not actually a very, very long process. And then you guys will get a chance to kind of do that with one another and practice it and stuff. A lot of people don't get to practice this stuff before they get out in the world. You know, they do it on family and friends and stuff, which is fine. But this will be a chance. You know, we'll all get to see it and, you know, commentate as a group. So describe your recent, you know, stuff like that. That's great. So if you were to do this, we go over here and fill in our cover letter. This says, it's a good idea to include key points about why you're a great fit for the job, best choice for a specific job. Of course, don't forget to ask for the interview, but keep it brief. Okay, we don't. Oh, okay, yeah, that's paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. I was like, don't ask for the interview yet. That is your final paragraph. So, as a recent graduate of the Southern California Health Institute in personal fitness training. By the way, you might notice I am capitalizing the title of Sochi, and I'm also capitalizing what area you studied. Now, this isn't the NASM. This isn't National Academy of Sports Medicine CPT license. This is just the program you guys are all in right now is PFT, personal fitness training. Now, that's not an official title out there in the industry, but that is like the title of like a degree, you know, like it's similar to it. That is your certificate of completion from Sochi. You have a personal, you know, so I always say like you get your NASM, CPT, CES, and nutrition coaching, right? You get 3 certs. Technically, you get a 4th one. It's just that nobody knows what that 4th one is. So, you know, I don't think put it on your resume as like a certification, even though it is. You have a certificate of completion in personal fitness training. But I do think put it on there as the title of like what you studied. What was your area of study? Personal fitness training. So in personal fitness training, I have recently completed my National Academy of Sports Medicine certification. National Academy of Sports certification. Try it, but I want to make sure this is a good sentence. Recent graduates, national. I actually don't like how I started this. I studied for and acquired my National Academy Sports Medicine certified. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put CPT. So that I studied for and acquired by National Academy of Sports Medicine CPT certification. There we go. I like that much better. I'm gonna put CPT because it is, you know, that, like I said, that is the industry standard. I could also put certified personal trainer certification. I think that will work as well. So now I've got information in this second paragraph directly related to like who I am and what my education is. Now what I can do is I can expand on it a little bit and talk about why I think that's relevant. While in school, we studied many aspects of the personal training industry, including, and now you can kind of pick some of the classes that you think are most relevant, right? So honestly, we are in a class right now called PFT 100, Leadership, Business, and Sales. So I could say, including sales, kinesiology, anatomy, exercise physiology, exercise psychology, and program design and fitness assessments, as well as detailed program design. So now you've got a list of several classes that they can refer to, and they can see like what areas are setting you apart. This is all the stuff that's included in the regular textbook, but this is now being shown what you studied at Sochi, which means you, yes, learned it in person, like from an expert, and like are applying it to the industry. And it's still relatively brief. This is what, 2 big sentences. This one's a little bit of a run-on sentence. I might clip some of this. For instance, like actually, you know, I don't know, actually, these are, maybe I get rid of exercise psych, because sometimes people don't detail that one the most, but some people love this. I think it's a really good chunk to leave in there. And obviously there's other classes. Maybe there's other classes you find, you know, better, right? Maybe the program design youth or program design seniors, because maybe you're going to work in a youth or a senior specific location. Maybe that's what you want to put right dead center in that second paragraph. But I think this is a really decent start to like highlight how you are different than someone who is just standardly applying for this job. And so that's the second paragraph. How y'all feeling about this? What do you guys think of this second paragraph? Do you like it? Do you hate it? What do you guys think? Chime in a little bit. Get some opinions rolling around this room. Okay, I see 1 thumbs up.
So the second paragraph is I am applying or as a recent?
So the first paragraph, oh my God. The first paragraph is just like, it's a salutation, right? It is literally a standard greeting. Everyone's first paragraph is going to be the same. There's no creativity here. It's just like, I'm applying for this position. I found your ad on where I found it, and I think I'd be great for the job.
Okay. No, I was asking for the left side. Like the second paragraph is as a recent graduate. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So this is where it's like, this is how everybody's going to say this. This is how you are different, you know?
Okay. The way you present. Yeah, I get you.
So it's like, look, I get it. I'm new. I like this too. I like the whole as a recent graduate thing. One of the reasons I like this too, and I've had people apply for jobs at Sochi like this. And honestly, those type of people aren't necessarily a great fit. But every time I read it, I'm like, yeah, good job. Like, you're telling me a little bit about you. It does, you're owning it. You're like, look, I get it. I'm a recent graduate. I'm new. But you know what that also means? I'm the most up to date. You know, stuff changes in personal training. There's new things all the time. You guys, at the beginning of the year, we're going to start incorporating NASM's newest edition of the textbook. We're gonna switch over to the 7th edition, which is just going to have a couple updated pictures and stuff. It's going to be, you know, kind of fun. That means that you are up to date. You're current. You know, we know about these current trends in the industry. I love that, right? And then it says like what you studied in particular. It's like, oh, you studied kinesiology. You don't have to study kinesiology to pass your NASM. Not really. All you have to do is memorize some overactive, underactive muscles lists. But you guys are going to have a deeper understanding of like what that means. What's the why behind the knees caving in. Anybody can, a lot of people can, not anybody, but a lot of people can look at someone's knees caving in and then look at a list and be like, that means that the adductor is tight. Get on Google, find an adductor stretch, and then like incorporate it. And they wouldn't do a bad job. They do a decent job. But like us, like we understand like, oh, there's different parts of the adductors, the little nuances and the story behind how the knees got to that caved in. That's the understanding that we have. So like putting that in there, or putting in the fact that you know how to do a little bit of sales, which you're going to know in a couple of days. Fitness assessments is big. Exercise psych, you know, it shows, oh, they know a little bit about coaching. You could also say exercise behavior change. Sometimes people word it that way because that's technically what some of that's what the certification is called. Exercise phys, you know, all that stuff. Those are really good. We have a lot more classes for you guys to choose from. I didn't even put corrective exercise up here. And that is probably your biggest selling point. That's the one that honestly, that's the cherry on top. That's the whipped cream that everyone's like, when you're at Starbucks, like, you want whipped cream with that? I'm like, yeah, I want whipped cream with that. You know, it doesn't cost me anything, but it makes me better. Hell yeah. You know, like, throw it on there. That is your CES. That's the corrective exercise specialist. That's a big one. So then we got third paragraph. Third paragraph here. Nope, we lost Chris. Third paragraph, continue tailoring yourself specifically for the job description. So this is where you're going to get a little bit more detailed about why you would fit very well at where you're applying. You can go into more about your education. You can also get into your specific background. Maybe if you have like a really inspiring story, it's a good place to drop it. You can also get that in your second paragraph, by the way. These two are very interchangeable. Both the second paragraph and the third paragraph can feel very similar to one another because they are really just about like, you're just tweaking and, you know, you're just dialing in and trying to land yourself this job, right? So use the duties and requirements of like previous jobs that you've worked in that you can maybe bring to the company and how your experience can help you. Guys, don't be afraid to put non-relevant work experience because every piece of work experience can be relevant. Some of you guys might remember Robert from last mod. He recently went into the military, so he's gonna get into personal training a little bit more when he gets out. But he wanted to do like, you know, boot camp style stuff, which is, you know, now he's gonna go do. He's going to do his couple years and then come back and, you know, probably start back up in this industry, but he's going to keep his personal training certification throughout. He passed his NASM and his corrective exercise like 2 days before he was being shipped out for basic training and stuff. And I was like, that's pretty freaking cool. He really like stuck to his schedule and stuff. And he was nervous, you know, but the kind of stuff he worked, you guys might remember he would like have class on while he was at work. He was like cleaning at a school. He worked on like the janitorial staff for like public schools. That has nothing to do with personal training, but it does show attention to detail. It shows that like he's got great work ethic. And he ended up like working his way into sort of a leadership role in that job, which was not where he saw himself as a career. But when we were working on his cover letter, I was like, hey man, like, I think he was like, I don't know if I want to include that. It doesn't have anything to do with personal training. And I was like, okay, well, what experience do you have that has directly to do with personal training? He's like, I don't have any. And I was like, exactly. But what you do have is a lot of work ethic and attention to detail. And you can highlight both of those things on your cover letter. So in your third paragraph, if you have something that maybe not necessarily directly relevant, just we know you used to work at the Disney play, right? Like that may not have anything to do with personal training, but did you work with customers?
Yes, I worked in the front and the back.
Yeah, you had to have like customer service experience, right? That's huge. That's what personal training is. You're working directly with a person, right? So that's a big one. I actually, you don't have to always pick stuff that's directly relevant, because anything can be relevant as long as you're tying it to the industry. So this person, I believe I have the maturity, skills, and abilities to have a successful career as a financial analyst. I don't love that one, personally. At university, I focused my extracurricular activities on writing and editing for the local newspaper, and subscriptions as I was there went up by 10%. So that's a little bit of a humble brag, right? They're like, look, I want to work in advertising. And when I was writing stuff for the local newspaper, which has nothing to do with advertising, I was able to draw people in. And so it's like, oh, okay, writing for the newspaper has nothing to do with advertising, but schmoozing and like certainly does, right? And so like I read that and I'm like, this person probably knows how they got a silver tongue. That's going to be very good in sales. They're going to be very respectful. They're going to be able to help people. So that's kind of what we're looking for in this third paragraph. So again, what you've got stuff while you're here at Sochi, or maybe you have previous work experiences that you think you can find that are relevant to personal training. So at Southern California Institute, the classes that I found most exciting were the various populations, program design classes. We studied how to work with a wide variety. Actually, I did. It was like wide range. Actually, I do like wide range better. Of individuals, including senior fitness training, youths, weight loss, sports specific training, and we had a huge emphasis on corrective exercise and nutrition coaching. I forgot to mention nutrition in the second paragraph as well. It doesn't need a comma. So now it's like, cool. Like, obviously you have a lot of specific studies, and like, these were my favorite classes, right? So that shows like, this is what I'm most passionate about. Or maybe I include one more sentence where I was like, in particular, we'll use the example that we're going into next week. The sports specific training class was an area that I especially appreciated, and I think makes me an excellent, I already used the word excellent earlier, a great fit for a position at Speakeasy. That paragraph got a little bit long. I would probably do some zhuzhing. I'd probably trim this down just a little bit. But what I did with this last little bit here, I don't even need this. I could just leave this alone. But Oh, actually, that trimmed it down very well. Thank you, Microsoft Word. The sports-specific training class was an area that I especially appreciated, and I think makes me a great fit for a position at Speakeasy Fitness. So now I've taken something that I think is really good and tied somewhere else. I could say the weight loss class. I could say the nutrition coaching, right? That is really good. Or you could say something like my previous experience with weight loss, me turning my own life around, my rehabilitating myself after an injury, in particular, I think gives me a perspective and motivation to work with clients that are, I think would be present at Speakeasy. Not great worded right now, but again, we're going to go back and edit a lot. But I think this is a good start. So now I've got 2 paragraphs, and like in just these 2 paragraphs, I had to think a little bit about like why I'm specifically good for these jobs. Now we're going to get back into the 4th paragraph, which just like the 1st paragraph is super simple. No creativity. Everyone's 4th paragraph should look exactly the same. It is literally an opportunity for you to do 2 things. Ask for an interview, offer your contact information. That's it. Okay, keep things short, keep it professional. Make sure you include your phone number and email, and how you can be contacted. If you do want to zhuzh it up a little bit and make it a little bit longer because you just need to fill out some space, you can also give your availability. So you might say something like, actually, I got to give the examples of PowerPoint first. So I look forward to speaking with you further regarding any sales related opportunities with Company X. I can be reached on my cell phone at blah, 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 blah. Or this one is somebody who's not even in the town yet. Remember, this is the person who's like still in school, graduating soon. I intend to visit the Chicago area early in April to prepare for my move to the city. I would appreciate the opportunity to meet and discuss any possibility of employment with your company. They're not even in the town yet, but they gave them specifically like early April. They gave them dates that they'd be available for an interview. So you can say something like, let's see. Well, I like that the way this one's. I look forward. Yeah. I also like that because it also just kind of assumes it shows that you're really confident. So I look forward to speaking further with you about any opportunities. Speakeasy Fitness. I can be reached cell at, and then for me it's or email at. Now you guys might be thinking, don't we already have that information up here? Yeah, you do, but it's your freaking contact information. That's the #1 reason you're sending this letter. So we're gonna put it twice. People miss stuff, especially when they skim. So we are making sure that it is very readily available. And then I'm going to remove that hyperlink really quick so that looks silly. Oh, and honestly, that's fine. You can leave that alone. But you could also say like, I am available from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, Friday, as well as all day on the weekend. Right? So you can say something like that as well. Again, I don't think you need to include that though. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. And then lastly, you're going to finish it up sincerely or gratefully or whatever you want to put at the end. And then you're going to put your name. So here we ran into a little bit of a problem. My cover letter is too, and by the way, you want to have these spaces here. My cover letter is a little bit too long, so I'm going to trim some of this down a little bit. Let's lose. I literally am like 1 line too long, so let's just cut it from here. There we go. And now I've left myself in a space that I can actually write my signature in there. Personally, if I like bring this in to my job interview. Questions, comments, concerns, guys. How y'all feel about that? Radio silence. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk really briefly about references. This isn't in your notes. It's not something that you're going to be tested on or anything, but reference requests. Again, me personally, I don't think you should be using someone as a reference if you have to write them a letter. It should be as simple as like, hey, can I use you as a reference? And like, great, yeah. And then it's like, can I get your contact info so I know exactly what to put on there? By the way, any of you guys who want to use me as a reference, please feel free. I would be more than happy to give you a glowing recommendation if you guys are applying for jobs. Reference request letters. It's just a chance for you to be like, hey, this is the job that I'm applying for. The nice thing about a reference request letter is that it does give you an opportunity to kind of key them in. You're like, this is the job I'm applying for. It's here. This is the, and they might be able to like do a little bit of research, look into that and be like, oh, and then they'll know what to say during your interview. That's the benefit to one of these letters. But I think all of that can be communicated with an email or, like a follow-up email, like, hey, I dropped your name as a reference. This is the job. Here's a little bit of a background. They may be calling you between so and so and so and so, which they'll usually tell you as well. But if you decide to decline a job, make sure that you express that in writing. It just shows that you're very professional. Keep it brief, usually like 2 paragraphs. Like, I appreciate the opportunity. I may be in contact in the future, but for now, I'm going to seek opportunities elsewhere. Thank you so much for your time. Sincerely, and then your name. So like literally the first paragraph was like, why? Second paragraph is like, thank you. No third paragraph. You just keep it really, 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 really short. And that's great because like, you don't want to say something like, oh, you just don't pay enough. Don't say something like that. Just keep it really, really brief and say like, in the job hunting process, I applied to a lot of places and I think that I'd be a great fit over here. So your cover letters, you can tell they need to be super well structured, very scripted, but you are trying to find ways to distinguish yourself from others by like listing out what you are passionate about and then what you are also good at. And it is a chance for you to kind of, make a first impression. And that's about it, guys. I'm going to go through with you guys on how to do this stuff in person. Everybody's going to have a cover letter by the time we leave and it'll all be, custom to you. But any questions so far? How y'all feeling? Anything? Anybody's worried about?
I think he just has to do it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I won't drill you for questions. All right, let's kill the recording.